Hi, everyone. Welcome to Microsoft Visio 2019 for Beginners. My name is Elissa Smith, and I've been a Microsoft trainer for over 20 years. In this beginning course for Microsoft Visio 2019, we're going to be exploring Visio from the perspective of someone who's fairly new to the application. We're going to start by learning to navigate in the application and then build some basic drawings. In this course, we're also going to look at some more advanced drawings like organizational charts, cross-functional flowcharts, and even some floor plans. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. And if you're looking to earn certificates, watch videos without ads, sign up for Learnit Anytime, our dedicated online training subscription service. Check the link in the description for more information. Now, if you have any questions you want answered by one of our instructors, please join our offsite community. The link is in the description as well. And as always, if this course has exercise files, you'll find them in the video description below. Come and join us. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Microsoft Visio 2019 for Beginners. In this chapter, you don't need to have any practice files open. We're just going to be exploring the Visio interface and getting familiar with what it looks like. Now, for this course, we're going to be showing you Microsoft Visio 2019 Professional. There's also a standard edition of the software. Just know the biggest differences between standard Visio and Professional is that the Professional costs more money, and also it contains a few functionalities that make it a little bit easier to connect your drawings to data sources outside of Visio and also to collaborate on drawings with coworkers and others. So when it comes to Microsoft Visio, a little bit of background on the application. It was actually created in 1992 and then purchased by Microsoft in the year 2000. So it's fairly old. It's been part of the Microsoft family for quite a while. Over the years, Microsoft has upgraded and improved the application, and now it's an industry standard for creating drawings like floor plans, organizational charts that are needed within organizations all over the world. Let's take a minute and explore what makes Microsoft Visio familiar territory if you've used Microsoft applications before, and also what makes it a little bit different. One of the first things you're going to notice about Microsoft Visio is that it has a very similar interface to other Microsoft desktop applications like Excel and PowerPoint. Notice in the top left-hand corner, you have your quick access toolbar, which allows you to quickly pin shortcuts that you use a lot in the application. Now, coming down, you have the good old ribbons, right? These have been around for a really long time, and they are your main method for getting to the functionalities of the application. The Home ribbon tab is still here. It allows you to get to the most popular, again, functionalities in Visio. And then as you move over to the right, you're going to have the Insert ribbon tab. This is all about inserting things like pictures and even creating charts inside of your Visio drawings. The Design ribbon is all about making your diagrams look beautiful, so updating colors, things like that. The Data ribbon tab is about connecting to data sources both inside Visio and out. The Process ribbon tab allows you to do things like even bring in a SharePoint workflow into a Visio drawing. Then we've got the Review ribbon. This is still all about, again, making sure you know how to spell. So spell check is still around and important. View ribbon tab is all about helping you to adjust how your drawings look. And then everyone's least favorite, the Help ribbon tab. I'm teasing, but it's true. Now, the one I didn't mention yet is File, and hopefully you're familiar with the File ribbon tab, but Microsoft calls this one their Backstage view because it's like going behind the curtain. You'll notice it covers the rest of your Visio window up, and the functionalities run vertically down the side. They are important because this is where you come to, for example, create a new Visio drawing, open existing drawings, and even save drawings or print them. We'll explore this one in a later chapter. Now, to get out of the Backstage view, you can either come up and click on, of course, the Exit button, the arrow pointing to the left, or if you're on a PC, you can hit the Escape key on your keyboard and exit that way. Now, down in the bottom, we have what's called a status bar. This is just a bar that allows you to, again, see the status of your drawings. And then in the bottom right corner, you've got your zoom slider. Now, where Visio starts looking a little bit different is on the left-hand side. This is called your Shapes task pane. And it is comprised of shapes. That's probably the first thing you'll notice about it. However, it's important to realize that these shapes are actually contained on what are called stencils. That is a Visio vocabulary word that you'll see used a lot in the application. So as you come to the top, you're going to see different kinds of stencils. And depending on the type of drawing you're creating, these, again, this list of stencils may change, but each stencil has different shapes on it that allow you to create a specific type of drawing. As we start moving forward, we'll explore these stencils and the shapes within them a little bit more. So stay tuned. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Microsoft Visio 2019 for beginners. In this chapter, we're going to look at how you can start creating some basic Visio drawings on your own and use some of the functionalities in the Backstage view. So right now, I have Visio open without any, again, blank drawings or current drawings open. And for this chapter, that will work great. So the first thing I need to do is actually access my Backstage view. So I'm going to come up here and click on the File ribbon tab and come into the Backstage view menu. If you remember from the previous chapter, this is all about giving you functionality to create, save, and print your Visio drawings. Now, the first thing I want to do is actually create a new drawing. So I'm going to click on the New option in the Backstage view, and you'll notice that I have really three main options. I can create a basic diagram, a blank drawing, and then I have all these awesome templates that Microsoft provides. Now, during the rest of the course, we're going to explore some of these different templates. They're spectacular because they provide you with specific shapes and stencils to create a specific type of drawing, like a flowchart or even a detailed network diagram view. But because we're just at the beginning, let's explore the top two. Now, blank drawing is just like the name implies. It is a blank drawing with no suggested stencils. So when you click on blank drawing, you're going to see that it asks you what measurement you'd like to use for your drawing, either metric or US. And then you click on create. It takes you back to the main Visio window. And the biggest thing you're going to notice is that you have a new blank work area, but over here on the left, there are no suggested stencils and shapes. And that's because you told it you wanted a blank drawing, and so that's what you get. You can still come up here and look at existing stencils, but it's not going to suggest any to you. So now I want to explore the other option. Let's go back up to the File ribbon tab again and go to New, and this time pick a basic diagram. When you're first starting out, this is actually the one I suggest you work with because Visio suggests possible shapes and stencils that would be useful. So you select Basic Diagram, and then again, you're going to see the different types of measurements. We're going to stick with US units, but do remember metric is always available, and then we're going to click on Create. Now, this time, the biggest difference is when your, again, blank drawing opens up, you're going to see that there are stencils listed with shapes that are available to you to use, and these are probably what Visio considers the most popular ones. Blank drawings also go by drawing 5, drawing 1, depending on how many you've opened. So now we need to go in and actually save our new diagram or our new drawing. I'm going to click on the File ribbon tab. And of course, I have Save and Save As. Because the drawing hasn't yet been saved, either one would take me to the same place. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save As and browse to a save location where I want to put my file. Once I do that, I can go ahead and give my file a name. I'm just going to call this my drawing 2. Notice again, the file type is a Visio drawing. There are also a lot of other file types that you can save Visio drawings as, but for right now, we're going to stick with the basics and then select Save. After I save, I'll see the title of my drawing up here at the top, and actually that Visio drawing is now saved so that I will be able to get back to it. Now, when it comes to printing, you of course can go to File and down to the Print option in the Backstage view. There is a print preview, which right now is blank because I haven't added any shapes to my drawing yet, but it's ready to go when I need it. To get out of, again, the Backstage view for print, I just hit my Escape key and it will take me back to my main window. Hey everybody, welcome to Microsoft Visio for beginners. Now at this point, we're ready to start creating some drawings of our own and adding shapes to them. You don't need to have any Visio files open because we're going to create a new blank diagram and actually put some shapes in it. So for that, we want to go up to the File ribbon tab and come down to New and access a basic diagram. The reason we're going to pick this one is because it gives us some pre-selected stencils to base, again, our drawing on. And then I'm going to select my measurement. I want US units for this and click on Create. Now that I have my blank drawing, you're going to notice that my Shapes task pane is open and there are some pre-selected stencils. Now with this basic, again, drawing that I selected, the basic diagram, I basically get the most generic shape types that there are in Visio. You're going to see that your stencil categories include things like basic shapes, and this is going to be stuff we learned in preschool. Rectangles and circles, even triangles are your shape types in this stencil. You also have some that are a little bit different, like arrow shapes. These are great when you're trying to create, for example, procedures with arrows between them. And then you've even got decorative shapes. Now at the top of the Shapes task pane, there is a search option where you can come up and search for a specific type of shape. Like I've just engaged a search for a circle. And once I do that, it goes through all of the different stencils that are currently downloaded on my computer in Visio and looks for different types of circles. And it's also showing me here the different stencils that they're located on. But when I'm done doing my search, I can clear it out by clicking on the close button, and I'm going to stick with basic shapes. What I want to do here is come in and I'm going to left drag some of these shapes onto my drawing. All you do is hold down your left mouse button, drag the shape over and drop it over on the right-hand side. And again, you just left drag each shape over until you get it onto your drawing area. And you can drag as many shapes onto your drawing as you want. Now, a couple of interesting things to notice as you drag the shapes on. If you drag one shape next to another, you're going to see these dashed lines appear on the sides and top and bottom of your shape. These are what we call live layout guides, and there's something that you may have noticed in some of the other Microsoft applications, like PowerPoint when you're adding shapes or placeholders for text. This is not new territory for Microsoft, and it's super great because it helps you to make sure that two shapes are actually lined up next to each other when you're putting them onto, again, your drawing area. The other thing I want to make sure I do is I save this. So I'm going to come to File and Save As, and then I'm going to browse to where I want this drawing to be located, and I'm just going to save it with a name, and then it will be there so that I can use it in the future. One thing to keep in mind is that we want you to try this out. So go in, open up a new basic diagram, and if you don't have one available, you can go ahead and open up My Drawing 3 from the exercise folder, and then once you're done adding these 3 shapes or some shapes of your own, save it. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. Now we're at the point where we would like to show relationships between the shapes that we're adding to our diagram using a tool called a connector. And this shows either order or again, a relationship between shapes within a drawing. Now as always, if you'd like to follow along in the exercise folder, we have a My Drawing 4 Visio, again, diagram that you can open up so that you can try this out with us. Now to access the connectors, I'm going to come to my Home ribbon tab up in my Visio window and come over to the Tools group. Now you'll see right now that the shaded button is the pointer tool. This lets me select shapes and also add new shapes to my drawing canvas. But what I'd like to do now is actually activate the connector tool. And this is right below, again, the pointer tool. And when you select this button, it actually changes your mouse pointer so that now it's set up to help you connect shapes together. Let me just zoom in on it really quick to make it a little bit easier for you to see. So that right there is our good old connector button. Now let's go ahead and actually connect our shapes. When I hover over a shape, what I'm going to see is that there are now actually intersection points on the borders of the shape. So in the middle, top, bottom, middle, and also left and right. These are showing me the different places where I could connect this shape to another one. What I'm going to do is actually come to the first point on a shape where I want to create a connection point, and then left drag to the next shape down. Now, because my connection points are on, it automatically selects areas on the next shape where I can connect these shapes together. I can continue to take my mouse and find different connection points. Now in circles, it's a little bit trickier because they don't have corners or again, a vertical edge, but you can see here, I can still come and use that connector tool to help me find the points on the shape where I can put them together. When I'm finished to turn the connector tool off, I'm going to come back up and click on it. This deactivates it. Or I can also click on the pointer tool, and then you'll notice that now when I come in and click on a shape, it will select the shape and not the connectors. Now, if I would like to go in and add multiple connection points, I can also activate the connector tool again up in the ribbon. This would again allow me to take current connections, and you'll notice I can actually change them by coming to their edges, dragging them around. But again, the idea with the connectors is to show how shapes are connected to each other. And you don't always need to add these, but they're a really common part of Visio drawings that you're going to see. And remember that when you're done using them, to turn the connector tool back off, you want to come up and click back on the pointer tool so that you're ready to start selecting your shapes and connectors and not adding more connection points. Now remember, in the Shapes folder, go in, open up the My Drawing 4 exercise file, and try to add some connector points to your own diagram there. Hey everybody, welcome back to Visio for Beginners. We now have a drawing with some shapes and connectors in it, and we're ready to actually modify this drawing and add some different elements to it. So let's go ahead and start by selecting one of our shapes. And again, all you do to select a shape is click on that shape, and you'll see that it gets editable handles on the sides of it. Sometimes we call those sizing handles. You can use these to adjust the size of the shape. You can also use it to move the shape around within the drawings. And notice as I move the shape, the connectors continue to stay connected to it. But what I want you to see is that every shape that has an inside can also have text inside of it. So now that I've clicked on this shape, I'm actually going to go ahead and type in the word step 1. As I type this in, you'll notice that once I deselect the shape, the text appears inside of the shape. I'm also going to do it to my next shape. So I click on the shape and just add my text. And each shape will get this text inside of it to further enhance the process. Now to edit any text inside of a shape, you just click on the shape. You can come up to the font group of the Home ribbon tab, and you can actually use the buttons that are right here to increase any text inside of a shape. And again, by doing this, it's really helping to enhance what this particular shape is trying to show. Another thing I really love to do is actually select multiple shapes. To do this, I'm going to take my mouse pointer and I'm going to drag basically an invisible box around all the shapes that I want to impact or change the format for. Everything inside of this particular, again, selection is selected. I can see the sizing handles on the corners. And as I come in, if I make changes, for example, to font size, or I put something in bold, or I even change the font color, you'll notice that all the changes I'm making will show up inside those shapes. To turn the selection off, I just click and you'll notice that it turns off that selection box. So modifying shapes and changing, for example, the format of font inside of shapes is fairly easy by just selecting the shape you want to change, or even in this case, the connector. I can click on that as well and come up and make changes using the different tools that are on the Home ribbon tab. Now, again, we want you to try this out. So from the exercise folder, please open up My Drawing 5 and take a look at how easy it is to modify a drawing. And don't forget that after you've made your changes, you need to go up and click on the Save button. You can either use the Quick Access Toolbar Save button or Control-S on your keyboard to just make sure that the changes you've made to the drawing will be saved. So try it out. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. Now we're at the point where we would like to add some annotations to some of the shapes in our drawing when they need more detail. A great tool to use for this is called a callout. Now to get to the callouts inside of Visio, you first need to select the shape that you'd like to annotate. So I'm going to come in and select one of my shapes. I'll see the sizing handles on the edges to let me know that it's been selected. Then up in the ribbons, I'm going to come to the Insert Ribbon tab. tab and come to the diagram parts group. You're going to see that one of the tools here is the callout button. All you need to do is click on it and you'll see a small pop down with different styles of callouts. Now don't worry because you can actually go back and change the style. So just select one that looks good. Basically what you're going to get is another text box with, again, a line pointing to the shape. Now I can come down while this callout text box is selected and add the text that I want. To my callout shape. And then when I release it, I can see the callout. So again, those steps are select the shape, come up to the Insert Ribbon tab, come to Diagram Parts, click on the callout button and select the particular callout that you want and type in your shape. I should say not your shape, but your text for your callout. And when you deselect, basically those callouts are made to help further give information about the shape. Now, can you move a callout? Absolutely. To move a callout, you just go in and click on it and then take the callout box and drag it to where you want it to go. But keep in mind, if you drag it too far, it may really morph where the callout line moves because it's always going to connect back to the shape that it's a callout for. And can you delete a callout without deleting the shape? Yes, just make sure the callout is selected and then hit the delete button, and you'll notice that the callout being deleted will not delete the shape. Now, how can you go in and change the style of the callout? For that, of course, you need to start by selecting the callout. Then if you right click, you're going to see that a secondary menu pops up inside of Visio. This is very similar to the formatting toolbar that we have inside of Excel and Word. But here inside of Visio, if you go to the top row, you're going to see next to the Format Paintbrush, a button that allows us to access the callout styles again. So I'm going to click on this button. It's on the top row right, and the same exact callout styles that we started with will show up here. You can select a different callout style and it will immediately modify your callout to that different callout style. But again, think of callouts as a way to further annotate a shape when it needs more detail. Now, as always, we want you to try this out. So go into the exercise files folder, open up My Drawing 6, and try adding some callouts of your own to the shapes. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We are ready to start adding some additional features to our drawings to make them easier to work with, especially as we get more shapes. So one of the tools that's been added to Visio to help accomplish this is a thing called grouping. It's also available in many of the other Microsoft applications. Grouping basically allows you to take multiple shapes and objects and put them into one group that can be moved and formatted at the same time. To create some groups of shapes, we first of all need to select them. Also, I'm going to be using a button on the Home Ribbon tab. So I have my Home Ribbon tab up, and I'm going to start by selecting the shapes. Now, there are two options. One of them is you can take your left mouse button and left drag around the shapes that you want to have selected. The other option is to actually click on each shape and hold down your control key as you click on multiple shapes, and you'll see that it will extend the selection around all the shapes inside of that particular group. Now, when you're ready to group the shapes together, you want to come again to the Home Ribbon tab, and on the far right-hand side, you have an Arrange group of buttons, and on this particular group of buttons, there is a word called Group, which I know is a little bit weird, but that's what we're doing. And from here, you can say Group again, and what you'll see is that the sizing handles around those shapes become one large group. Now, what can I do with my group? Well, first of all, if you come to the middle of your group, after it's been selected, you'll notice that if you click away from the selected shapes and then again click on the shapes, they select as one. And I can actually take this group and I can left drag it to different places, and all the shapes within it, including their text, move at the same time. So it makes it much easier to adjust portions of a drawing. Now I'm going to go ahead and move it kind of back to where it was, and I'd like to create a second group. So again, the steps are the same. I select the area that I want to have grouped, and then notice that my callout is also included in this process. I'm going to come back up to the group button again and click on group one more time. Notice there is a keyboard shortcut for this. Control-Shift-G can also create the grouping. And once the grouping is created, it again is going to allow me to select those objects all at the same time and drag them. And as I drag them, notice that the connectors are going to adjust to the new position of the shapes as we drag them. Now, how do I turn off a grouping? To turn a grouping off, you're going to want to select again on the group so that the selection for the group comes back. Come back up to the group button and say ungroup. This will turn the grouping off so that now when you click on a given part of the shape, you'll see that the sizing handles just go around that portion. Now we want you to try this out. So go to the exercise folder, open up My Drawing 7, and try creating some groups of your own in the drawing. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We are ready to start building some organizational charts. We're also going to be using the templates of Visio as we do this. So the first step is to come up to the File ribbon tab of Visio, and notice I don't have any drawings open right now because we're going to be creating our organizational chart from scratch. As I go into the File ribbon tab, I'm going to come down to New. Now, we've previously explored this area when we created basic diagrams and blank drawings, but in this case, we want to base this organizational chart on one of Visio's built-in templates. This will also provide us with the correct stencils and shapes for the drawing type. I'm going to search for organizational chart, and you'll see that this takes me to quite a selection of pre-built templates that allow me to create different kinds of organizational charts. Now, another suggestion I have, if you use some of these templates a lot, is to go to the specific template and come to the pin in the bottom right-hand corner and pin the stencil. You'll see that I already pinned the org chart stencil, or I should say template, and that makes it so it'll be at the top of my, again, new Backstage view pane. That way I don't have to look for the particular template I use a lot. Then when I'm ready to pick it, I can click on it. It'll ask me what measurement unit I'm using. We're going to stick with US and click on Create. Now at this point, I have two choices. I'm either going to base my organizational chart using this organizational chart wizard, where it will allow me to connect, for example, to an Excel spreadsheet that has data about who my organizational chart is going to be made up of, or I'm going to go ahead and just enter the information in, or I can cancel. And I'm going to cancel in this case because I want to go from scratch. Now, before you think nothing good has happened, notice that over here in my Shapes task pane, I can see a new category of stencil called Organizational Chart Shapes. And it's made up of different types of shapes that would go in an org chart. Things like an executive level position, a manager position. Now to start using these shapes, you would, like you normally do, left drag the shape onto your drawing area and drop it where you want it to go. Now, you might think that you're going to need to connect all the shapes together, but one of the neat things about the org chart template is when you start dragging additional shapes on, you want to drop them under the position they'll report to, and it automatically connects them together. So I'm going to do this with a couple of different manager positions, and you'll see how they're automatically connected to my executive position. Now, a few of these positions, like the assistant belt position, if I drop it under someone, it will just report right to the person directly above. A few of the different shapes on the organizational chart shapes stencil also actually allow you to drop more than one position. So with this one, I get 3 positions. So now that my organizational chart has actually been built, I need to save it. So I'm going to come up to the File, Save As, and come in and save this so that I can get back into it and use it in the future. Now, as always, we want you guys to try this out. So after I save it, make sure you go to the exercise file and open up a new blank Visio window and get in and try out the organizational chart wizard on your own, or I should say the organizational chart template. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Visio for Beginners. We're ready to take our organizational chart that we've just manually built using the org chart template in Visio and add some detail to it. So here in my organizational chart, you can see I'm at the point where I'm ready to customize some of the different shapes. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to just zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see the shapes. You'll recall that it just gives me the basic placeholder for the shape and then an area for the title and the name. First thing I want to do is give this some more detail. So to do that, all I need to do is come into the shape, click on it to select it, and then go to the text area I want to update and double click. You'll notice, for example, the title field is just highlighted, and I'm going to type over the top of what's there. Then I'm going to come out underneath and do the same thing with the name field. When I double click, it allows me to now type in the name of the person that I'm going to be putting information in for. Now, to further add detail, I'd like to update the photograph because right now it's basically nothing. So I'm going to come in and click on the shape. Now you will see that when I do this, I get, again, some new ribbons that open up because I'm working in a specific type of Visio drawing. Up here at the top, I now have an org chart ribbon, and I also have a picture format ribbon. Now, the org chart ribbon is where I want to go to do anything with my organizational chart. Within the organizational chart, you're going to see that I actually have a picture area. Now, what's interesting about this is if you click on the picture itself, it's not as easy to insert a picture. So I'm actually going to come in and click on the placeholder for the shape so that I get sizing handles around the entire outside edge. And then when I go up to the picture ribbon in the org chart ribbon, I should say the picture group, I can come right here to the top half and click on it, and it will actually let me go into my computer, find the photograph I'm looking for of the coworker, in this case our CEO, that I want to add to my shape, and now it's been put in. So again, those steps are to add the photograph, click on the shape, then go up to the org chart ribbon, come to the picture group and click on that again, insert picture button, and then it will allow you to go in. And again, these photographs are just locally saved on my network or a shared drive or my hard drive. They're not coming from anywhere else. And then it allows me to add the information to the specific shapes. So this is very time consuming, but it's also a way to get a very customized organizational chart. Now, as always, we want you to try this out. So go into the exercise files folder, open up My Drawing A, and start adding the detail and also some photographs to your shapes. Hey everybody, welcome back to Visio for Beginners. We are ready to create an organizational chart in Visio based off of the organizational chart wizard. So you'll notice that as I get started, I have no drawings currently open in Visio because we'll be basing our org chart on a template. So to get to those templates, I'm going to go back up to the File ribbon tab, click on New. And remember, I could always search for the organizational chart template down here in the middle, but I happen to already have it pinned just to save me time. So I can go ahead and select it, pick my measurement unit, we'll stick with US units, and click on Create. Now, this is when the organizational chart wizard pops up. Now, you'll see that there are two ways to connect to your data. You can actually enter your data in using the wizard, or you can have it already stored in a file or database. Now, the types of files that it will take are things like Excel spreadsheets, text files, even an ODBC compliant data source, or an Exchange server directory. I want you to just see what mine looks like. This is my data source. What you're going to see is it's an Excel spreadsheet that lists out the names of the people in my org chart, who they report to, their title, and then their department and their phone extension. And I've saved this in the same folder as my other files to make it easy to get to. The other thing that I have there as well that I want you to see is that inside that folder, I have the photographs of the people that will be included in my org chart. And notice they're going to be named exactly the same name as they are inside of my database file. So now that we've kind of looked at those two pieces of information, having those ready ahead of time will really help when you get ready to use the org chart wizard. So let's jump back into Visio and keep going. So I know that mine is in that Excel spreadsheet. That's my, again, organizational information. And I'm going to go ahead and browse and make sure I have the correct file selected. And now the next step is to make sure that I know where the data in Excel that's currently in my organizational information file connects to my Visio. Now, the first thing you're seeing here is it's showing me choose the columns in your data file that contain the information that defines the organization. For me, that's their name and who they report to. Then I'm going to click on Next, and now it's going to say choose the columns that I want to display. In my case, I want to make sure that I have their name, their title, their department, and their phone number. And then it says choose the columns from your data file that you want to add to the organization chart, the shapes, and the data. And again, you can see here how I have those same ones there. I'm going to click on Next again. Now, finally, do I have photographs? And I do. And this is having me browse where those photographs are located. This is the correct folder. And then I'm ready to click on next one more time. This final step asks me how I would like my organizational chart to be laid out. And you'll notice there are actually different styles. In my case, I just want it to take whoever is my executive, the top level of my org chart, and lay it out from there. And then I'm going to click on finish. So what we're going to see here is that it's showing me, again, from my org chart spreadsheet, it's showing me the different people and bringing them in and then basing their positions on who they report to. And it has created my org chart for me. And so I don't lose this, I'm going to go ahead and save it so that I have it for me so that I can use it later on. And then we're going to keep going. So we really want you to try this out. So please open up a blank, again, open up Visio without anything open, and then go into the exercise files. And you'll see that the organizational chart data and the photographs that you'll need for this activity are all inside of there so that you can try out the organizational chart wizard yourself. Give it a whirl. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We are ready to take an organizational chart and change it up by modifying it. So you'll see here that I have an organizational chart open, and what you can do if you want to try this out with me as we go through the activity is open up My Drawing 10 from the exercise files. Now the place to go to change up your org chart is up in the ribbons. When you open a file that's been based on an org chart template, you'll see that you get this fantastic new ribbon called org chart up here between the view and the help ribbons. Now, a couple of really great things you can do to change the look of your org chart quite quickly is to start at the far left-hand side with the layout button. This layout is all about, again, how the shapes of your org chart are laid out. And right now we have a default layout, but you'll see that there are several different choices. So it's kind of fun to come in and try different ones so you can see how it changes the overall layout without changing the type of shapes or their connections. So you'll see here that there are many different choices, from the horizontal choices on the top to the vertical choices that you see down in the middle section. And then even down at the very bottom, you have some side-by-side options. So you can really update the look of your org chart by playing with some of those different layouts. Now, another thing I love to do is see how the org chart can collapse up inside of its different levels. If I click on my CEO, this is the top layer of my org chart, you'll see that there is a Show Hide Subordinate button. If I click on this, it allows me to hide everyone who reports to Jane, and then I can click on it again, and it will basically, again, expand them back out. When you have positions that are collapsed up inside, this little button right here represents the fact that there are additional people under her, but I need to click back on that, again, button up in the ribbon to expand them back out. Now, probably the place you can go to really change the format and look of the org chart the most is in the styles of the org chart. This is called the shapes group, but you're going to see that there are several different shapes that you can apply to all the different styles of the org chart that really give it a different look. This is the petals org chart look. There's also one called coin, which makes everybody look like a coin. And then you have some that are still using more of the, again, box style, but a little bit of a different indented look. And you can see here how it really just allows you to create an organizational chart with a different feel. So again, when it comes to updating the look of your org chart after you have it established, don't be afraid to come in and go to the org chart ribbon to really explore some other options. And as I've already shared, open up the exercise files and go into My Drawing 10 so that you can look at how you can reformat your own org chart. Try it out. Hey, welcome back to Visio for Beginners, everyone. We are ready to start building some floor plans. Now, you might be thinking, when would I ever use this? Well, here's a very common scenario that's happening right now. The COVID-19 pandemic is eventually going to end, and a lot of offices have been remodeled while we've all been working in our basements and closets and everywhere else. And people are going to come back to a whole new layout. So you might be tasked with trying to give them a visual of what that layout looks like before they get back. Well, guess what? Visio is your go-to for that. So notice right now in Visio, I don't have any files open because we're actually going to base our new floor plan on a template. So let's come up to the File ribbon. and come in and go to New in the Backstage view. And then again, if you haven't seen the floor plan templates in Visio, I would suggest you go in and do a search because there are lots of different ones. And you'll see that many of them are based on different kinds of floor plans, everything from a plant layout for an industrial plant to a basic home plan. Now we're going to stick with the most basic type. This is a floor plan. Again, notice you can pin it if you'd like, but in our case, we're going to base it on US units for measurement. Now we get a blank drawing area, but here's the good news. If you go over to the, again, Shapes task pane, you will see some new stencils that are all about floor plans. There's one for walls, shell, structure. There's even one for electrical, again, outlets, and some other ones that even allow you to do things like architectural design. We're going to be more basic because I'm not an architect. Greatly respect those who are. So let's go ahead and come in, and you'll notice that right here you have a room. Let's drop this onto our drawing area. Now, by default, when you bring in a room, let me zoom in on this, you're going to see that it's 8 by 10. That's the default size for a room. Now, how can I make my room a little bit bigger? I can come right here to the corner, drag it out. That will allow me to manually adjust the size of my room, but it can be a little bit awkward. So instead, I'd like to just type in the size for this room. For that, I'm going to come to the edges of the room while it's selected, and I'm going to right click. Now here I get options to help me, again, deal with my room and format it. But what I want is way down at the very bottom where it says properties. This is going to allow me to come in and see the current width and length of my room. From here, I can go ahead and type in the actual width and the length for my room. And then I can click on OK. And notice that my room resizes now. My room is 30 by 25, and everything's measured in feet and inches because that's the increment I picked when I created my template. Now over in the stencil, I'm ready to start adding some additional features to my room. Things like windows and doors. That can be important. So let's start with a couple of windows. I come over to the stencil, left drag the window and drop it along the wall of the room where I want it to go. Now you can see the default size right here is 2 by 6 for this window, and I mean 2 feet 6 inches. I can come to the edges of that and drag it out and make my window wider or narrower. I can also come to the window and actually drag it and adjust where it's located on the wall. Now there are different types of windows. That's a traditional window. I even have a glider window that I can come in and add as well. And again, I can adjust the width of that window just by dragging it left or right. Now, when it comes to doors, the thing you have to remember is that we have to be concerned about the direction that the door will swing. So you can see with this one, it's showing me the direction the door will swing into the room. Perhaps I'd like it to go a different way. So I can always right click on that door, and notice it will allow me to reverse both its in and out opening, and I can also reverse the direction. So let's add one more door. And I want you to see here that you also have choices in the types of doors that you get. Like I can even do a double door if I want here. And notice it will put it into my room. And then I can adjust where it's located just by clicking and dragging. So you can start creating the basic shell of your room by just dragging on the appropriate objects from the Shapes task pane. Now, as always, we want you to try this out. So go into the exercise files folder. You're actually not going to need to go there because there's nothing. What you need to do is go in and create a new template based on the floor plan template and start adding some different shapes to it. So try it out. Hi, everybody. We're in Visio for Beginners right now, and we're exploring a thing called drawing scale inside of Visio. Now, what exactly is drawing scale? Scale helps to ensure that your drawing that you have on your computer screen will print on paper and also be relevant to real world measurements. So, for example, we know that this drawing that we have open right now is being measured in feet because that's how we based it on when we created the drawing with the floor layout template. And by the way, if you want to follow along and do this with us, we have a floor plan for you in the exercise folder. If you go in and open up My Drawing 12, you'll be able to check it out. So give that a whirl. Now, from here, how do we get in and see the drawing scale of this floor plan? We're actually going to go up to the design ribbon. We haven't spent a lot of time here yet. This ribbon is all about helping you to adjust your view and the look of your layout. And you'll see that on the far left-hand side, you have a page setup group. And in the bottom right-hand corner, it's pretty tiny. There is the Page Setup Dialog Launch button. When you click on this button, it actually opens up the Page Setup Dialog box, which is where we need to be. Now, the Page Setup dialog box, much like you would see in Microsoft Word or Excel, is all about setting up your page correctly so that things can print. So you'll see that the first tab of the Page Setup box is how will this particular floor plan print on paper. But as we move to the right, we're going to see that there's a tab called Drawing Scale. And this is to represent when I have this showing something that's real world, how does that convert to being on paper and on a computer screen? So you'll see right here that the scale that I see is by default set to architectural, and it's by feet and inches because that's what the drawing was based on. If I wanted to create my own custom scale, I have that ability right here inside of the Page Setup box. This is a good thing to be familiar with when you're creating a drawing plan, just to be sure that what you're putting on a computer screen is going to correlate on paper and then in a real world experience. To close this box, you just click on the OK button. And again, to have a floor plan that you can play with and check out Page Setup, please go to the 12 drawing inside of the exercise folder and you can check it out. Hi everyone, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We are ready to actually model a floor plan layout of an office. So you don't need to have any files open in Visio to do this activity because again, we'll be using one of the Visio templates. So to access those templates, we're going to come up to the File ribbon tab, go to New, and this time I'm just going to type in floor plans. And there are many different floor plan layouts. Again, because we're doing an office layout, we will actually pick that template. You can also pin it so that you can have access to it more easily if you're going to use it quite a bit. This is all about helping to lay out furniture within the floor of an office or a room. So we're going to go ahead and select it, and you'll notice just like with the other templates, we have to pick the measurement unit. We'll stick with US units and click on Create. Now we get a blank drawing area, but again, over on the left, we have some great new stencils. One of them is called Cubicles. Hopefully that makes sense. You've got Office Accessories. This gives you everything from plants to even a table tennis option. You also have Office Equipment. This is going to be printers, copiers, computers, office furniture. And then we get really bare bones because we have to actually create the structure that our office layout will go in. So this is walls, doors, windows. So let's start with that. First thing we need is actually a room for our office. So we're going to come right here to the room shape, drag it on and drop it. Now, every room in Visio defaults to be 8 by 10. You can change that by just stretching it out yourself. Or if you just want to be more exact, right-click on the edge of the room that you're drawing, come to the very bottom and select Properties. And right here, you can just type in the width and length of your room. Keeping in mind, if your room gets really big, it may go on to additional pages. And then if you need to size it, or I should say move it to get it onto the page more directly, you can do that by just left dragging it. Now I have my room, and notice it's showing me the dimensions when I click on it. Next, we need to add some light. So let's get some windows and also some doors. So I'm going to come in and left drag some windows onto my room where they would be. And again, if I want to adjust the width of these windows, I can just come in and make them wider, and you'll notice this will allow me to adjust their width. Now for doors, same thing. And keep in mind, there are a couple of different types of doors, from a basic opening door to a double door. So pick the correct one based on the office type and try to put them in approximately the places that they'll go. And again, you can be really exact or you can be more approximate. It just depends on how exact you want your drawing to be. And once these elements are placed, you can always move them. Now, what about some furniture? For that, we want to come up to a different stencil. Let's take a peek at office furniture. Keep in mind, you also have cubicles. It kind of depends on the style of your office. For cubicles, you'll notice that you have different styles. So let's say I want to do a couple of cube workstations. I can drag these in and drop them, and you'll notice that as I do this, it shows me where they're going to go. I can also adjust their size by coming in and squeezing them down. Maybe I want my cubicles to be a little bit smaller. Also notice that I can bring them to different places and drop them. And I can even rotate them by swinging them around. And then I can also move them that way as well. So you have different styles of furniture that you can pick from. Let's go ahead and have you try this out. So remember, open up a new template, place it on the office layout, and start dragging some shapes and try it out on your own. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We are ready to add some office accessories to our office floor plan layout. Now, if you want to follow along with us, please go to the exercise files folder and open up My Drawing 13. There's already an office layout there for you so that you can jazz it up with some of your own accessories. So first of all, notice that over in the Shapes task pane, because we based this drawing on the office layout template, we have, again, stencils to help us with shapes that are appropriate for what we're trying to do. We're going to come to the office accessories stencil. This one's pretty fun because it has some cool stuff like a trash can, for example. So I can even let people know where their trash cans are supposed to go. Don't forget the all-important coffee machine, right? We definitely need one of those. And you even have fun stuff like a foosball table that you could even put in here if you want to. No, it's a little awkwardly placed, but everybody loves a foosball table in their office, so let's go for it, right? Now, what about making things look pretty? You even have some plants that you can add. They say greenery really helps people work more productively, so we're going to add a few things like that. Now, what about things like representing computer equipment? You'll see that the cubicles already include computers and phones, but if I want to get more specific, I can actually come into the office equipment stencil, and you'll see this gives me some pretty specific things, everything from a terminal, like let's say somebody needs an additional workstation at their desk, to even a printer. And then I've even got stuff like shredders and other office equipment that I can represent. So there's a lot here that you can play with. And the thing to remember is that your office layout can be as detailed as you want it to. So again, I would highly suggest that you open up the My Drawing 13 and try accessorizing your office and make it look beautiful. Hi everyone, I want to show you how Visio is getting updated pretty timely according to the times that we live in. And this is because Microsoft adds new templates to Visio all the time. Now, right now we're currently in the COVID pandemic, and many offices are trying to decide when to open and also how they're going to lay out things to help with social distancing, right? That's a hot word of the day and age we live in. Well, Visio has kept up with that. If you come into your, again, Backstage view of Visio and you do a search for floor plans, I just wanted to show everybody this because I think this is something that a lot of people may be tasked with in the near future, especially as we get ready to head into 2022. And hopefully a lot of us are going to be able to go back to work, some, right? You're going to see that Microsoft has actually added a social distancing template. What this does is it helps you take a floor plan for an office and basically set up a drawing that helps to represent where social distancing can happen. Now, it's pretty in-depth, and I want you to notice over on the left in the Shapes task pane, they're actually taking from current stencils and using them in conjunction with other ones to help create a floor plan that could represent how people will move about a floor and also how social distancing will occur. Now, you can take this template and actually customize it. Remember, you can always zoom in on different elements of any template. And to basically add more detail to it, you can, again, take from the existing shapes and add them. So for example, let's say I want to add just a text box. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and then we'll zoom back in. I can come over here to the annotations group and I could come in, for example, because I'd like to add an 8-point size font text box. So I'm going to click on this and drag it over and drop it again on the template. Now it comes in really small because this is made to, again, be a very large template. But if I drag it out, I can make it bigger, and then I can just type inside of it. And then I can make the size bigger by just highlighting it or clicking on the text box like we've already done in previous sections and updating the size. So this is just something that I wanted to show because it might be helpful for some of you to even get ideas on how this might be done because it is one of the templates that's fairly new inside of Visio. And in the exercise files folder, we're actually going to save one already pre-made for you that will just be called My Social Distancing. So open it up if you want to see it already made, or go to the Backstage view and look for the social distancing template if you want to make one of your own. Hey everyone, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We want to create a cross-functional flowchart. So right now in Visio, I don't have any files open because we're actually going to base our new cross-functional flowchart on a template. So let's open it up and then talk about what it is. So of course, we're going to go to the Backstage view in Visio, click on the New button, and come down to our Templates gallery. Now, if you come down to the search bar and just type in cross-functional, it will bring up any templates that have that word inside of them. There is one cross-functional flowchart wizard that can base data on Excel, but in our case, we're going to actually create it from scratch. So we'll select cross-functional flowchart. Again, you're going to need to decide what your measurement unit will be. We're going to stick with US units and click on Create. Now, with a cross-functional flowchart, you do get a little bit of information. And let's just take a minute and talk about what a cross-functional flowchart actually is. So it is a flowchart, but it goes beyond what a basic flowchart does because it lets you see who does what and when in a grid-like diagram that's organized into sections. So it's able to show you relationships between, for example, a stakeholder and a department, and then the time period or phase that it's supposed to happen. So it's basically like taking a flowchart and adding dimension to it. So you'll see here that my basic flowchart that I have right now has a title at the top. This is what it would be called. And then down like rows in a table, I see what are called swim lanes. Now, these are usually going to be connected to a department or a person who's specifically doing the activity. To start with, I'd like 2 more swim lanes in my cross-functional flowchart. And I happen to have a new ribbon that's come up because I'm in a file based on the cross-functional flowchart template. And it's called cross-functional flowchart. It's well named, right? So when I click on it, you'll notice that over on the far right-hand side, I do have an insert group. And swim lane happens to be one of the options. So I'm going to click on it twice, and you'll see that I get 2 additional swim lanes in my cross-functional flowchart. Now, also, I have separators. These allow you to add basically the phases of time. But I want to show you how you can have a little bit more choice into the width of these separators. I'm going to come now down to my shapes task pane, and you'll see that I actually have some new stencils all about helping to create both flowcharts and cross-functional flowcharts. Now, if I go to the cross-functional flowchart, you'll see that I have swim lanes and separators. And you'll notice that these allow me to create, again, those sections of time or phases. I'm going to come in and left-click and actually drop this where I approximately want it to go so that it will have the correct width. And so that's why I like to do these from the Shapes task pane, because once they're in here, it's a lot harder to adjust their width. Now what I want to do is add some specific text to my swim lanes and my phases. So for this, I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to click on the text box representing a specific function. And I'm actually going to type in what I want it to say. And it will allow me to type over the top, which is exactly what I want it to do. Now, when it comes to the phases, you can also name these. So I can click up here on the top and type in a more specific name. If you want to use something more than phase, I'm going to use phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, just like any Visio drawing, after I'm done adding my phases, I need to save this so that I can get back to it and use it again. Our next step will be to actually add some shapes. So to save it, I'm just going to come up to, again, Save As in the Backstage view, come in and save this where I want it to go. And the next thing we'll do is add some shapes. But in the meantime, we really want you to try this out. So go into the exercise files folder. And again, you can just open up actually a new template, the cross-functional flowchart template, and try it out on your own. So don't go to the exercise file folder. Go in and try out the template, and then we'll get to adding shapes. Hi, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We have a cross-functional flow chart currently open in Visio. And if you want to follow along as we do this, please go to the exercise files folder, open up My Cross-Functional, and it will give you a cross-functional flow chart in its beginnings that you can try out with us. Now, right now we have in our cross-functional flow chart some swim lanes. Those are your rows. And then you have some functions, again, representing time increments across the top. And we now want to actually add the shapes that represent the flow chart portion of our cross-functional flow chart. And this is where it really gets back to more basic Visio. So over in our Shapes task pane, we're going to see that again, we have some specific stencils to help add some shapes. First of all, you have the quick shapes category. This is great because it has things like process shapes, decision shapes, start and end shapes. I'm going to start with a start shape. I'm going to come in and just add it right here to my first phase. And then maybe, for example, I need to have a decision shape that I'm going to add. And remember, with these shapes, you can size them and make them smaller and bigger. And right here, you can click in any shape and add text, just like we've done. Now, I'm zooming in on this a little bit so you can see it. And when you're done, if you want to get back to a full page view, if you go up to the View Ribbon tab and then say Fit to Window, it'll actually zoom you back out again. When I click away from the shape, then you'll see the text inside of it. Then right here, I'm going to type some more text. Now let's say that I'm ready to put something into a different swim lane. I'm going to come in and pick a different shape. This time it's going to be a process shape, and I'm going to come in and put it underneath. And then maybe after that, I want to have an additional shape under that one. And then finally, last but not least, I'm ready to have an end shape. And remember, every shape can be typed in. And after you click away from the shape, that's when you'll actually see the text inside of it. Now, how do we connect these shapes together? This is where we need to add connectors to our shapes. Now, here's a couple of interesting things you might notice with some of these shapes. When you hover on some of them, you may notice that you see little arrows on the four sides of the shape. Now, sometimes you'll see these and sometimes you won't, but these are what we call auto connectors. These are great because if you come to one of these, it will actually allow you to auto connect the shapes that are either under or next to the shape. So in this case, I've gone to my start. Let me kind of zoom in on this one a little bit so it's easier to see. And as I hover over the shape, I see those four arrows. If I come to the one next to the shape I want to connect to and click on that shape, you'll notice that it automatically will create that shape for me. In this case, that's not what I want. So instead, what I'm going to do is create, again, a manual connection by going to my Home ribbon tab, coming to the Connectors button, clicking on the shape that I want to go from and to. Notice this will allow me to manually drag the connector point. However, let's say that maybe the auto connectors will work. In this case, I'll turn off the connectors, come in. Again, I'm going to hover on the shape. You'll see it saying, hey, do you want to connect to possibly this training shape down below? If I select that particular one, if I come to the thing and select it, it actually connects it for me. So I have two options. I can manually create the connections using the connector button up in the Home ribbon tab, or I can hover over a shape, and if the create connection point is created for me, I can just accept it by coming in and just, again, clicking on the arrow and then accepting the connection point that it's giving me. So this isn't something you have to do, but it can save a lot of time because you're not having to manually connect those shapes together. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We have a cross-functional flowchart that we would like to modify. So in the exercise files folder, there is a file called My Cross-Functional with Shapes. Open it up and then you can try it out with us. So the first thing we're going to do now that we're in the cross-functional flowchart file is we'd like to go ahead and change the look of our cross-functional flowchart. Now, you can't change a lot with cross-functional flowcharts just because their format is so critical to how they are looked at and visually represented. But if you come up to the ribbons, you will see that there is a cross-functional flowchart ribbon. When you click on this, you'll see that you do have a few tools beyond just inserting the swim lanes and separators. One of them is that you can actually come in and you can change the orientation of your cross-functional flowchart. Now, right now, the default is for it to be horizontal, so it will be best if it's printed, of course, in layout view. But if you notice right here, you can come in and you can pick vertical. And what this does is it changes it. So now it's laid out again with the swim lanes being vertical rather than horizontal. And you can flip it back and forth and kind of compare and see what would work best. Keep in mind when you do this, it can change again the page size that your flowchart's based on. So you kind of want to be careful when you make those changes. I'm going to undo those just so we can go back to the way it was originally. Additionally, you also have direction. This allows you to change this cross-functional flowchart from reading from left to right to left. So you can actually switch its direction. So you can see here that we're looking at elements that really change the overall flow of the cross-functional flowchart. Then you have margins. These allow you to, again, adjust the margins of your page so that things maybe don't print quite so close to the edge. And then you have a simple design group. Now, there are styles for cross-functional flowcharts. These are going to allow you to come in and just change the look of the chart. Again, keep in mind that some of these take up more room, so you might have your page suddenly need more room. So keep in mind which style you pick can change how much room it takes to print your cross-functional flowchart. But some of these styles have a little bit of a funner look to them. Keep in mind it's not so much look that's important though as flow, no pun intended. Now also notice here that I can take this and it will rotate my lane labels. I did not make that up, Microsoft did. And again, this can help you maybe have more room to see things, but with ours it's best if they continue to be listed vertically. You also have your title bar at the top giving you the name, and then also separators. These just represent that you don't want to see the actual separators in the flowchart. If you turn those back on, you have to re-add them. So again, keep in mind when you do that it can be something that's not easy to undo. You have to redo it. Now, if you really want to just change a specific part of your cross-functional flowchart, keep in mind that you can still format overall areas of the cross-functional flowchart. Of course, I haven't added a title yet, so maybe I need to come in and do that. But let's say, for example, I'd like to change the font being used for this text in my title. I can click on the specific box that it's in and notice it will become formatted. Then I can come up to my Home ribbon tab. I can use the Increase Font Size button to update its size. I can also come in and change the color of the font. And then in addition to that, I can also come in and there are shape styles here. These basically format the text box that this title is in, and I can use them to actually change that individual part of my cross-functional flowchart. So everything that you see in the cross-functional chart is made up of shapes. And just keep in mind that you can individually format those elements of your cross-functional flowchart by using some of the different tools on the Home ribbon tab. Now again, we want you to try this out. So like I said, open up the My Cross-Functional with Shapes file and try changing the format and also going up to the cross-functional flowchart ribbon and check out some of the different options in the arrange and design groups of that ribbon to help you update the look of your cross-functional flowchart. Hi everyone, in this lesson for Microsoft Visio for beginners, we are going to explore how to create a basic network diagram view. I don't have any files open in the Visio window right now because we're going to base this network diagram drawing on a Visio template. So I'm going to come up to the File ribbon tab and go to New in the Backstage view. This, of course, is going to take us to Visio's template gallery. And to look for anything to do with a network diagram view, I'm going to type that in the search field. You're going to see here that there are quite a few network diagram view templates, but in this case, I want to start with the very basic one. We're going to select it. Again, you'll notice that before we go to the measurements, you can pin this template so that it will be added to your most used templates at the top of this window and then select it. Again, I have to pick the measurement units. We're going to stick with US and click on Create. Now I get a blank, again, drawing area, but what's critical is what's happening over here in the Shapes pane. you're going to see that I have some great new stencils that will help me create my network diagram. First of all, I've got one called Computers and Monitors. This is where you're going to see shapes like a PC, even a laptop. And then under that, I have Network and Peripherals. This is where we're going to see things like a router and a firewall. So the idea is we need to add the individual shapes required for our network diagram view. And just a reminder that a network diagram view is all about creating a drawing of a standard setup for servers and computers and other parts of a network for computers so that it can be represented so people can either plan it out or see what it looks like. So let's go ahead and get started by dragging our shapes on. So first thing to notice is that we want to represent the different parts. Now let's say there's a particular shape that you can't see. You can actually come up and search for it. I need a shape representing the internet. So I'm doing a search for that. The best thing I've got right now is this cloud shape. So I'm going to go ahead and find the cloud shape, click on it, and left drag it into my drawing window. If it comes in too large, I can always size it down. And then to rename it, I'm just going to click on it and type in what I really want it to say. This is going to represent the internet. Next thing I want, I'm going to go ahead and clear out my search, is back in those stencils that came along with my network diagram template. In this case, I want to come in and I need to get, again, a modem. And again, if I can't find the particular one that I want, I can always come up to the top, do another type, and allow it to look for it and find it. Once I find it, I'm going to bring it in and drop it in my drawing. Then I can clear that search and come back again, and I need a firewall. So notice as I drag these, I'm using, again, those alignment guides to help me place them where I want them to go. And now I need a router. And then finally, last but not least, I'm going to come up to the Computers and Monitors group and grab, for example, a PC and maybe a laptop. So I'm getting all these different objects from the stencils. Now, the one thing you may notice that is not happening is none of these objects are automatically connecting. So in this case, because the auto connect arrows are not coming up when I click on one of my shapes, I'm going to need to connect them together. To do that, I'm going to come up to my Home ribbon tab, come to the Tools group, and click on that connector button. This is going to allow me to hover over a shape, come to the edge of it, and you'll notice again that green square that will allow me to start connecting these shapes together. I'm not clicking here, I'm just again hovering. I don't click until I'm ready to drag the connection points. And you can see how this is going to allow me to come in and actually connect all the shapes together so that now my drawing actually has those connection points in my network diagram view. To turn it off, all I'm going to do is come up here, click back on the connector button, and that turns it off. And now you can see how easy it is, or actually we're going to come up and click on the pointer tool, sorry guys. This will now allow you to select the different shapes in your network diagram without having that connector tool be turned on. And now we have a basic network diagram view that's been created. As always, make sure you go up and save it. Now, if you want to try this out, remember, just go in and base a new Visio drawing on the network diagram template and make one of your own. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Basic Visio. We are ready to create another network diagram view, but this time we want to use 3D. I wish it was as good as a 3D movie, but it does give your, again, your shapes that you're using extra dimension to use the 3D shapes. So we don't have any Visio drawings currently open because, again, we're going to be basing this drawing on one of the Visio templates. So we're going to go back up and access the Backstage view by clicking on File, come down to New, to again, that Templates gallery, type in Network Diagram, and do a search. And you will see, again, many different choices. What's interesting here, though, is that one of them is actually called a Basic Network Diagram 3D. And the biggest thing that's different than the basic network diagram is this one. The shapes have a 3D aspect. So we're going to click on it. And then, of course, base our drawing on US units. We get a new blank drawing area along with 2 new stencils, one called Computers and Monitors 3D and one called Network and Peripherals 3D. I feel like I need to put on my 3D glasses, but let's go ahead and get started. As always, if there's a shape you can't find in the stencils, you can search for it. The internet isn't exactly really well represented, so I'm going to go ahead and just look for one and bring it in. And as always, from the stencils or the shapes task pane, when I bring it in, I can size the shapes. This one is not 3D, but it does represent the internet. Now, after this, as I bring in shapes, I'm going to clear my search in the shapes task pane and come back over and start getting some shapes. And you'll see that when I drag them on, like I'm bringing in a printer, I'm also going to come in and go to Computers and Monitors and bring in a PC and a laptop. This time the shapes do have a 3D aspect to them. And really, it's just kind of fun. Now I'm going to come down to Network and Peripherals because I would also like to get a firewall. This even has a brick aspect to it. I can make it a little bit bigger. And finally, the next thing I need is a router, but you'll see here I can't really find the one that I want. So I'm just going to come in and actually type in the name of the thing I need, do a search for it, and that will find it for me, and then I can actually bring it in. Now, here's something that's a little bit different about the 3D network diagram template. When you bring the shapes in, many of them will have what's called an auto connect. Right now, none of my shapes are automatically connected. However, when I go to any shape and hover over it, notice how on the top, bottom, left, and right, I see those small light blue arrows. Those represent the fact that if I come to one of those arrows and click on it, it will try to auto-connect to the object nearest to it. This actually makes my job a lot easier because I'm not having to go up and click on that connect button, that connector button that we've used up in the home ribbon tab. And you'll see that sometimes it works really well and sometimes it gets a little bit confused, but usually the idea is it's going to try to find the next closest thing. If it can't, then what I can do is I can actually come up, click on the connector button, and I can manually create the connection points with it. So sometimes when auto connect doesn't work, you can turn on the connector button. I'm going to turn it off now because I'm pretty sure we may be able to get it to work. And you'll notice even my cloud has an auto connect option as well with it. And again, in this case, it may not quite be connecting to where I want it to, so I can adjust. Right here, when it comes to my router going to my printer, what I'm probably going to need to do is auto connect that. So I'll go up and click on the connectors button, and then I will just, again, drag that line down manually. So biggest difference between normal network diagram template and network diagram 3D is that, again, your shapes have a 3D aspect to them. And you will see auto connect on some of the shapes. To turn the connector button off, I'm going to come back up to my home ribbon tab, click back on the pointer tools button, and then I'm going to go ahead and save my drawing. Now make sure that you go in and give this a try, but remember to base your template on the 3D network diagram template. It's actually called Network Diagram 3D, and that'll get you started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Visio for Beginners. We have a 3D network diagram view open right now in Visio. If you go to where our exercise files are and open up my network diagram 3D, you'll be able to follow along or even try what we're going to talk about in this lesson out after we're finished. What we want to do is look at an aspect of Visio where you can add what's called shape data to your drawings. Now, shape data can provide really important information about your network. It can help you with tracking the network inventory and also where the physical location of where different computer equipment is. In our drawing, every shape can have shape data associated with it. Right here I have, for example, this PC that I have selected. And again, to select it, I've just clicked on it. And to access the shape data, I'm going to come up to my Data ribbon tab. This isn't one we've actually used yet in this class, but this is all about the data behind your shapes. You'll notice that there is a show hide group on the right-hand side of this ribbon. And one of the task panes we haven't yet accessed is the shape data window. All you do to turn it on is check off this box. Pretty cool because you'll see that for every shape you select, there's preset fields of information that you can fill in about this particular item. So for example, I could come down and I could have a serial number for my computer that I keep track of. I could also have a location. And then a building number. And then even a room number. I could have a manufacturer, a product number, product description, and I can even have information like the operating system that's on the device and hard drive capacity. So it's very specific to this being a PC. Now, if I come down and select a different object, like my wireless router, you'll see that this one doesn't have any shape data associated with it because maybe this particular object, they don't have any custom data for it. But if I come down, for example, to my printer and open up the shape data window, we'll see that it has similar information, but a different, again, set because it's not a computer. It's, in this case, a printer. So again, I have the ability to put where it's located. I also have a room number. I even have a part number. And then if I come down, I have ports because it's a printer, an IP address. So you can see how depending on the piece of computer equipment, it updates the type of information that's in the shape data window. Let's take a peek at this laptop that we have represented. And now you can see, again, a little bit different, again, shape data. And the takeaway with this is that you can use this to help keep track of where these pieces of computer equipment may actually be located, to help maintain inventory and also where stuff is. So we'd love to have you check out shape data. So remember, open up your My Network Diagram 3D drawing and then go to the data ribbon tab and see what it looks like. Maybe this is something that you can use for yourself to keep track of all these computers. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Basic Visio. We want to now look at an aspect in Visio drawings called a layer. Layers can be really useful when you have different types of shapes in a drawing that have things in common, like categories. The nice thing about putting your shapes into layers is that they can actually become like stacks in a pancake stack, where you can see one set of shapes and then you can turn that set off and see another set. And so it's a way to create basically like layers inside of your drawings. Now, first of all, if you want to follow along, go to the exercise files and open up My Layers. That will allow you to do the same thing that we're going to show you in this particular activity. So what I'm going to do is open up my drawing and come in, and I want to actually add a few more PCs and also laptops to the drawing. To do that, I'm actually going to hover over the next shape that would connect to them using the Auto Connect feature. You'll notice when I come in and I actually go to my router and just hover on it, that I see light blue arrows here at the top, bottom, left, and right. And this is assuming that there's a shape that is not currently in the drawing that I would like to add. And it just so happens that I would like to add another laptop. Notice here that I can actually pick from the different shapes. And it adds the laptop to me and it's connected. Now I can also make sure it's lined up with the laptop above just by using those auto layout guides. Now I also would like to do another laptop. So I'm going to come back to my router again and notice it's pre-thinking what I might want to add. And in this case, it's a laptop. And I can again use those live layout guides to help me get that laptop to where I want it to go. Let's go ahead and do one more laptop. So now I've got 3. And remember, I can drag this laptop wherever I need it to go and it will still connect back to that main shape. Now I've got laptops and I've got PCs. Wouldn't it be nice if I could basically categorize those as 2 different types of layers? The first thing I'm going to do is select the shapes that I want to make my first layer out of. So I'm going to left drag around both of my desktop computers or PCs, and they'll both get selected. I'm not so concerned about the connectors between the shapes, and I'll show you why. To access the layers, I'm going to come up to the Home ribbon tab and go over to the far right-hand side to the very last group called the Editing group. And on there is a button called Layers. Now, right now, my drawing only has one layer. So when I go to Assign to Layer, you'll see that automatically in a drawing, the connectors, those arrows or lines that connect shapes together, are automatically on a layer of their own. Now, you can add them to a new layer, but it's kind of nice to let them just be on their own separate area. But I am going to create another new layer that I'm going to call PC. And then I'm going to click on OK. Now you'll notice that it shows me a check mark next to my PC layer, and then I'm going to click on OK. Nothing changes in the drawing yet. I'd also like to do the same thing with my laptops. So I'm going to left drag around those. They will all get selected. Then I'm going to go up to Layers again, say Assign to Layer, and then say New, and this will be called my laptop layer. And then I'll click on OK again. Then I'm going to go ahead and make sure the laptop group is again selected. Now, how do I use those layers? I'm going to deselect all the shapes that are currently selected in my Visio drawing, come back up to the Layers group, and come into Layer Properties. This will show you all the layers that are currently in your drawing. You'll see, remember, connectors was already automatically created in the drawing, but laptop and PC were the two that I selected. Now, what's interesting here is I can actually come in, and you'll notice it has both a column to have the layer be visible and one for it to print. I'd like to come in and uncheck everything except for my PC layer, and then I'm going to click on OK. Notice all the other shapes that are not part of that layer or any shapes that are unassigned turn off, and also the connectors. Now, if I go back to Layers again and come to Layer Properties, if I check the connectors in the laptops off again and click on Apply, it keeps the box open but allows me to basically turn them back on. So the layers are doing exactly like the name implies, putting those graphics on a layer of their own. So just like you see here, if I unchecked everything except this time the PCs and click on Apply, just the PCs will show, and any other objects or shapes that are not currently in a layer. So it's a way to create visual layers within your drawing. Now, again, we'd love to have you try this out. So go in and open up the My Layers file, and you can add layers to that file and try out how to do this. Hey, Visio Basic fans, welcome back. We are now at the point where we want to edit a drawing that has layers within it. Remember, layers are just a way to take certain shapes and have them be based in categories so that you can turn them on and off and help to keep your drawings organized. Now, if you want to follow along with us, please go to the exercise files and open up My Drawing with Layers, and you'll be able to go through the activity or even try it out once this particular lesson is done. Now, to access the layers of this drawing, we're going to go up to the Home ribbon tab. And in the Home ribbon tab at the far right-hand side, you're going to see the Layers button. Now, to access existing layers in a drawing, we're going to come in and actually go to the Layer Properties box. We'll see that the connector layer is created by default in most drawings for all the connection lines between shapes. Then I also have a laptop layer and a PC layer. Now, remember, I can use this Layer Properties box to do simple things like uncheck a specific layer, and it would turn off all the laptop shapes that are in my drawing. I can also turn them back on by rechecking the box and clicking on Apply. Sometimes you may need to know what shapes go with what layer. So what you can do is come to the far right-hand side of the Layer Properties box and check off Color for a given layer. You come down to Layer Color, and then you pick a color that you would like to apply to that specific layer. You can actually do this with multiple layers. And what happens is once you click on the Apply button, any shape that goes with a specific layer turns that color. So all my laptops are red and all my PCs are green. When I want to turn that off, I can just uncheck the color column, and again, when I click on apply, all my shapes go back to their normal color. Now, additionally, another area that I can do is I can also come into a specific layer. I can rename it just by coming in and adding the correct name, and that will allow me to keep the, again, particular layer without having to delete it. And here's something to be careful about. If you come to a layer and you say remove, it warns you that removing the layer will also remove the shapes on the layer. So this is a very not good way to delete a lot of shapes. So do I want to remove the layer at this point? No, because I'd like to get rid of the layer, but I don't want to see all the shapes get deleted. So we're going to actually go about that a different way. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to close my shape layers box. In this case, I want to remove the laptops from the layer that they're in. So I'm going to left drag around all of my laptops. They get selected. Then I'm going to come back up to the layers button and say assign to layer. Now, right now, this box is showing me all the layers in my Visio drawing along with the current group that these laptop shapes are part of. I'm going to uncheck that and click on OK. What's just happened is I've kept the layer but removed the shapes that are part of it. If I now go back to the layers group and come to layer properties, notice if I come to the laptop layer, uncheck visible and say apply, my laptops don't disappear because they're no longer part of that layer. What I'm going to do is now I can click on the laptop layer and remove it, and I don't have to worry about my laptop shapes getting deleted. Now they can still, again, be part of the drawing. What if I want the laptops, though, to be part of the PC group? I will reselect them again and then come back up to the layers group and say assign to layer. I'm going to click off the PC group. And now what I've done is I've added them along with all the other desktop or PCs in my drawing to that PCs group. To double check, I'm going to go back to the layers button again, back to layer properties, uncheck PCs, apply it, and notice how all the PCs and laptops are now part of the same layer. Then I'm going to go ahead and check it off. So remember, if you open up my drawing with layers, you can try this out on your own. Hey everybody, welcome to Visio for Beginners. We want to look at how we can update the look of a drawing by impacting shape styles and connector styles. Now, as always, if you want to follow along with us or try this out when we're done, go to the exercise files and open up My Shape Styles, and that will give you a Visio drawing that you can try this out in. Now, every shape has styles associated with it and every connector. So let's start by looking at how you could update those connection lines between your shapes. Now, one thing is that one drawing could have many, many connectors in it, and trying to go through that drawing and select all of them individually without selecting their shapes. For example, if I have to click on this one and then the next one and the next one, it gets really difficult. So one of the things I like to suggest is that instead of trying to select them all yourself, you let Visio do the work. For this, there is actually a select option box. To access it, we're going to go to the Home ribbon tab, come over to the editing group and go to the select box. Now, to specifically select a certain type of shape, in this case connectors, out of your drawing, I'm going to come down and go to the select by type option. This opens up the select by type dialog box. Now you'll notice right now, these are all the types of objects that are currently set up to be selected, but I actually want to do just my connectors. You'll see this can also contain containers and callouts. I don't have either of those in this drawing. By selecting connectors, it automatically is selecting all the connectors in my drawing. Even though you can't tell that, this dialog box that goes around all of them represents that. Now up on my ribbon, if I go to the Home ribbon tab, you'll see that right now the shape styles it's showing me in the middle are specific to those connectors. So a couple of things that I can do. I can come to the line button. This lets me do a few things. Number one, I can change the color of those connection lines. You won't see it until I'm done, so let's keep doing a few more things. Under that same line, I can also come down and change the style. Maybe rather than a solid line, I'd like a dashed line. And then to make it more prevalent, I'm going to come down to weight. This represents the thickness of those lines. I'm going to make them a little bit thicker. Now when I unselect it, notice my green dashed lines representing my connectors. Now what about some of my other shapes? For example, my cute little laptops. I'd really like to come in and give them a different look. So what I'm going to do is select them. First, I'll make sure nothing else on my drawing is selected. And then I'm going to left drag around the specific shapes that I want to work with. Notice how it selects each shape, even though I selected them just by left dragging. Now this time, I'm not going to go up and use the select button because I have my shapes selected. Instead, on my home ribbon tab, I'm going to come to the shape styles group. Now in the shape styles group, I can do things like impact the fill color of those shapes. So notice my little laptops in this case can get a different color applied to them. But another fun thing that I can do is I can also apply effects. This can be things like adding a glow around those laptops, making them look a little bit more emphasized. In addition to that, I can also come in and actually add a border of color around their outside edge. So now they've got the glow effect with the purple fill with the red, again, border color, really adding some pizzazz to those little laptop shapes. Any drawn object inside of Visio, even this little cloud, can have the same opportunity where you can come into the shape, add different fill color, and even the different font color using the tools on your home ribbon tab. Just make sure that if there's text inside the shapes, you make the text, again, a different shade than your inside or fill color so that you can see both the font and the fill color. Now remember, we want you to try this out, so go to your exercise files folder, open up the My Shape Styles, and try adding some pizzazz to your drawing by adjusting, again, your connector styles and also the formatting for your shapes. Howdy-o, Visio fans. In this lesson for Visio for Beginners, we want to look at how we can update the look of our drawings in Visio by applying themes and variants. Now, if you've ever used a Microsoft application like PowerPoint, Excel, or Word, you'll be familiar with themes. But just a quick review. Themes are basically a combination of color schemes, font styles and font color, and even object and shape color that combine to create a consistent formatted look. Well, guess what? Visio has them as well. So to check out themes, we're going to come up to the Design ribbon. Now, in the Design ribbon tab, you will see that a big part of this ribbon is called Themes. And as I've mentioned, these are a big part of PowerPoint slides and, for example, in a Word document when you have drawn shapes, you can apply themes. When I click on the drop-down arrow for the themes gallery, you'll see that they have different names like modern and trendy, and all you do to apply them is click, and you'll notice that your drawing will update. Now, a few things to be aware of. If the drawing already has pre-done formatting, it will not change everything. You may see things like the font color for an object change or even the style of the lines, but themes will not always override formatting additions that you've made to the drawing. But they're a great way to quickly try to add a different look to a Visio drawing after you've already created it. Now, in addition to the themes that you're seeing here, notice that if you go through and you find a theme that you like, you can also still come in and apply on the Home Ribbon tab and override the style of a specific theme. So you can individually still add different styles to shapes. Also, in addition to the themes on the Design ribbon, you also have variants. These take the same theme and they allow you to try different variants of that theme using different colors. Ooh, some of these get pretty scary. Different effects. And effects kind of have to do with, is the object 3D? Does it have a glow? And then finally, connectors has to do with how those lines will look between, again, your different shapes within the drawings. The fourth category you've got with, again, with this is embellishments, and this just means, is there anything in that drawing that has an an extra exaggeration. But again, the idea with themes and variants is to help take your drawing to the next level and add detail and make it look more exciting. Now, we want you to try this out, so please go into the exercise files folder, open up My Drawing with Shape Styles, and go to the design ribbon and check out themes and variants and see what you can do to your own drawings. Hey, welcome back to Visio for Beginners. We want to show you another great way to help create organization within a drawing. It's an item called a container. Containers are a feature in Visio that allows you to basically add a visual boundary around certain shapes and a label for them. So the first thing we need to do is select some shapes that we want to be in a specific layer. To do this, I should say layer, sorry guys, container. We need to come in and again select those shapes. Now I'm going to select my shapes by clicking on the first one and then using my control key, and notice that as I click on each shape, it extends the selection boundary around those shapes. This is another way to get multiple shapes selected. Now to put them into a container, I'm going to come up to the Insert Ribbon tab and come to the Diagram Parts group. This is also where callouts and connectors are located. I'm going to go to the Container button. There are different styles of containers. I'm going to go ahead and just select one of them. And you'll notice that I get what looks like another, again, boundary around the shape with the word heading. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to change that title by double-clicking on it and just go ahead and call this the PC's container. Now let's say I want to create one more. I can again select the shapes that I want to make into a different container and then come back up to the Insert Ribbon tab, come into the Container button, select a different style of container this time, or I could create the same one, and then I can double click on that heading or click on it once and type in the correct word that I want for that other container. Now, after containers are created, the idea is that they are helping to categorize and also they're helping to organize my drawing. Now, let's say that I would like to update the look of a container. What I can do is actually click on the container itself because it's just another drawing element, and I can come up to the new ribbon that will open up called Container Format. Then I'm going to come to the Container Styles group and select the new style for that specific container. I can do this and have different styles applied to different areas within my drawing, again, to help organize and, again, emphasize different shapes. Now, as I'm doing this, if there is a specific shape that I would like to add to a current container, I can click on that container. It's a little bit tricky. It sometimes helps if you go to the edge of the container and actually drag it down and make it a little bit bigger. And then take the shape that you want to add to your container and actually left drag it inside the group. And what you'll see is that now if I come in and I select that container, the shape is located within its boundary. Notice that its connectors go with it. Additionally, if you want to make super sure it's in the container, you can right-click on the shape, go to Container, and say Add to Underlying Container because this shape is located in the container behind. Now, to remove a container, all you have to do is click on the container, hit your delete key, and you'll notice that the shapes inside of it will also get removed. So this is something that you have to be careful about when you do. Instead, what you can do is right-click. You'll notice the container will be, again, grayed out as something that you can't select. So we're going to come up to the Container Format ribbon, and you notice we're going to come in and we're going to say on the far right-hand side, Disband Container. This will remove it without removing the shapes inside of it. I'm also going to come in and do the same thing with this one by clicking on it, going to Container Format, and then saying Disband. Because if I delete the container, it will actually delete the shapes that are inside of it. So again, it's a way to visually further augment and document the different shapes within a drawing. As always, we want you to try it out. So go into the exercise files and open up My Drawing variant and try adding some containers to that drawing. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this Visio Basics course. Have a fantastic day.